As I breathe with today's energy, I become aware of a female energy named Kimberly, I believe. And I see curly, light brown hair, a round body. I see 1980s clothes specifically, so I think she might have passed in the 80s. She's young. I think she's probably in her early 30s. And I sense something around Florida or at least a state that is tropical in climate. And around her, I sense the energy of entanglement, specifically romantic entanglement. I I feel she was a person who had many relationships in her life, both male and female, but particularly with her male relationships. She was often triggered to respond with rage and anger, as were many of them. I think a lot of the triggering came from childhood experience, which is something I believe is the case most of the time anyway. Historical pain is what triggers present moment pain, which is why it's important to breathe, ask God for help, feel, and try not to follow the thought and just be. I don't I don't think Kimberly had those tools, and I think there was perhaps a lot of rage toward those relationships and toward the children she had, which I think there may have been six. And she's free now. She's limitless now. She came here to live out that life for a reason. So this is no judgment on her. But it is an acknowledgement. And I think the reason she's making herself available to me today is to acknowledge the anger that often erupts in particularly love relationships, for lack of a better term, because I think all is love, but romantic relationships, and how easy it is for many of us to erupt into anger in response to behaviors that trigger historical pain. And I'm not sure why that seems like an important piece to mention today, but it is. Just a reminder that breathing, feeling, being, letting go are key, particularly in our closest relationships. If we're being hurt, if we're being abused, if the treatment is continual and doesn't shift, then of course we have to leave the situation with love. Sometimes that's not easy for people. And I understand that. It's not a judgment on that. But ideally, we remove ourselves from a situation that is repeatedly negative and even violent. But outside of those relationships that need to be removed, the ones that are mostly peaceful or that have the potential to be peaceful because there is no pathological behavior, Kimberly is reminding us to learn to breathe and to learn to take responsibility for our own responses to things and to let go of the belief that somebody else's behaviors are responsible for how we feel. Let them worry about their actions. That's their responsibility, even if it's the closest person to you. Your responsibility is to worry about yours. And when we choose to breathe, feel, and simply be, we remove the obstacle to forgiveness, which is thought. When we follow the thought and create stories behind why an action has hurt us, we shield ourselves from having to feel the hurt. And the hurt may be triggered by the action of another, but it's also hurt that exists within us that needs to be seen. And romantic relationships are the greatest gift for healing those parts of ourselves and allowing them to be present and become fully part of us. And when we choose instead to fight and stick with a story, we lose the opportunity to heal the hurt within. And Kimberly is here today to remind us of that. All of us battle with this, some more than others. I think it's part of the human condition to learn to allow our pain to be and to not throw it at someone else. Unless, of course, we're being hurt by that someone repeatedly. And then we remove ourselves with love, just to say again. And if we need help, there are organizations that can offer that. But for situations that are not abusive, emotionally or physically, we do have the power to bring peace to them by learning to hold ourselves in comfort and allow the other to find their own way to that comfort, and then together meet in the middle with love and forgiveness. Thank you.